So I want to go back for a moment, and if it's all too personal, you don't have to the your experience with psilocybin, what you took from it. And to me, it is interesting. I don't know if you feel uncomfortable, but like, you're a dad, you've got, I believe it's a wife, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got a wife.
Yeah.
It is a wife. Sorry, that's a funny way of phrasing that. So you've got a wife, you're a dad. I'm curious what psilocybin has done for you, if it's affected those relationships or any of your other personal relationships. I think that stuff is truly more interesting to me than politics. So
yeah, sure. There's a big like 90-degree offshoot from everything we're talking about. I am a very independent person. I'm a very internally driven person. I don't need a lot of social validation to do what I do. It's been one of the things that's kind of helped me guide me through a lot of the streaming process, because I can deal with a lot of hate online, and generally I'm not as affected as most people. And then I'm also like an independent person in real life. I don't need a lot of like other people driving me. I'm very internally driven. If I want to do something, I'll do it because I want to do it. I don't care what other people think about it generally. I thought that was like the master of my thought process, existence, or whatever. When I did a whole bunch of mushrooms, I think typically most people, once you get past 5 grams, you're dissolving a lot of these very fundamental processes that all kind of come together to make your conscious experience. And when you start to tear a lot of those back, and you are kind of like left seeing, what's remaining. You're not keeping track of time very well. You start to dissolve this sense of self, which is hard to even explain. You start losing track of your own thoughts. You start to lose track of a lot of memories. A lot of people refer to parts of this, depending on how far you go, as like ego death. Once you start to make this journey into here, you get a lot of interesting thoughts that you wouldn't otherwise. And you get a lot of interesting perspectives that you wouldn't otherwise. One of the things that I kind of took away from it is, when I came in, obviously I fought it a lot because it was my first trip ever, which was super stupid. And I was not ready for how intense it was. I thought it was going to be like smoking weed. Yeah. But one of the things I found out was that it was a really horrifying, awful experience to me, because I felt like I'd broken through to the real reality, that like reality is actually just me sitting here on a couch alone in the middle of the universe with no sense of self and no other people, and it's the worst thing in the world. And I wish that I could like take another drug to go back to. I'd rather fool myself into believing that other reality is true than wherever the fuck I'm at right now, because this is lonely and horrible. So I learned one thing immediately. The immediate thing I learned was that not all truth is good. I think that it might actually be the case that even truth is instrumental, and that truth is only good so long as I can utilize it to make my life better. There might be some true things I could learn that I actually wouldn't want to learn. I'd rather be deceived. And in that sense, if that was the true reality, me being insane as a god in a universe somewhere with no other person to talk to, I'd rather just be like a normal person in this universe is way, way, way better. That was the first thing I learned. And then something that I learned on another trip, which is a long story, but we accidentally took way too many mushrooms again, but I was more prepared for it that time. The second thing I learned was that the reason why that was so horrifying, to be alone in some crazy universe somewhere where everything was like very fucked and different and boring and horrible, was actually because I would have been totally alone. And the idea of like speaking to another person and they're all just constructs of my mind, and the idea of being truly in a place where I can't talk to another like sentient being, like that felt really horrible to me. So I learned that I guess like other people are actually very important to my existence. Even if I am kind of a loner, like having at least a few friends to talk to, or other people to bounce ideas off of, or other unique minds to connect with, to have a presence in my life, is probably the most important thing to me. I don't think I could live on a planet with no other people, even if I had every other amenity available to me. So yeah.
No, I find that stuff super, super interesting. I relate to some of the ways that you've described your upbringing, which is like you played a lot of JRPGs, you got good at reading because of that. I remember I played StarCraft. You were, I beat the campaign on normal. I was not, not anything to be impressed with.
You beat the campaign, okay?
Yeah. I did bitch out in the last fight against the Overlord. I got to be honest. I got the Overmind rather.
Wow.
But, some of the things that we were saying, I wanted to ask, because you're talking about like connecting with minds. One of the things that has recently come to me through mushrooms is it sounds cheesy, but like a felt sense of myself as being more heart-based than head-based. And I'm curious if that has been an experience that you have had through, getting older or any of these trips, or if it has been more logical thought sphere.
I'm still pretty mind-based, but the heart part is a lot more important than I thought it was, I guess. Yeah.
Got it. Well, I hope you continue to do it, because it's been super valuable for me. Do you have any sort of like practice around it or anything like that? Or is it just, when you're with friends and it makes itself available?
What do you mean by practice? Like being in like a therapeutic setting, or?
Like I will take a microdose. I will microdose once a week or something like that, and sit in the sun and meditate or something like that. Or I'll do a breath work.
As much as I talk about it, I really haven't done it. I'd say I probably had less than 20 experiences in my life. of like mushrooms and LSD, maybe 20 or 30 if you include MDMA. So it's not like I'm doing it like all the time. Yeah, but my experiences so far have been fun.
Cool.
After my first big one, I had to take like a year break from doing anything because it took me like a full year to get back to normal. To go from never having, because when I smoked weed before, weed wasn't even really psychedelic to me before mushrooms. It just kind of like made me like goofy and giggly or whatever. Mm-hmm. And at 30 years old, to make it that far through my life, to do a full-on insane ego death trip worth of mushrooms, like totally broke my fucking mind for a solid 12 months. Like I had a lot of problems. I had death anxiety. I got weird mini like micro bouts of like depression and GAD, like these mental issues I've never had in my entire life before. I developed panic attacks at random. I've never had a panic attack in my life. I haven't, thank God, for like 3 years. But up to 30, I'd never had a panic attack in my life. Even through highly stressful, I don't even know what it was like. And then I just started randomly getting them. So it took a long time for my mind to like recongeal and settle and come back together, because that's a really dramatic thing to experience, not even knowing that whole world exists. I can't believe there are a lot of people that don't know that like psychedelic experiences exist when it's like such a crazy thing that is right there. You just need to like eat a mushroom to get there, you know?
Well, hopefully not 10.5 grams, because I mean, no wonder. I mean, that would have put me off of it forever.
First try, I would recommend 2 for people, because sometimes people listen, just to be responsible. 2 grams is a really good way to just like ease into it. You might not have a trip, but you'll definitely see and feel things. 2 is good. And then 3.5 for like a full trip is like really good. An eighth of an ounce, I think, is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And setting, of course, which is like, who are you with? I've been fortunate enough to do it with professionals, but like, are you with friends that you trust? Are these friends going to fuck with you if you start to see, like that's kind of an important thing, because if you're not, is there someone there who you trust that will not fuck with you, that will take care of you if you're feeling scared, or at the very least reassure you that it's going to be okay? That can have a very, very positive or negative impact if it's not handled in the right way. So, there's your PSA.